Hello and welcome to the KMTRADERS channel. We're looking at the weekly outlook review. So basically we're just going to review all the trades that potentially could have happened with our analysis. So just kicking off with GBPUSD. So towards the end of the week we had this huge push to the upside, and that was because of the an advanced movement in the Brexit deal. So obviously this has caused a lot of influence on the pound. So not just the pound US dollar. I've noticed that all the pound pairs had an increase in momentum. So obviously a push to the upside. So with our analysis that we provided, obviously we didn't know that this would happen. We projected that a reversal zone would have occurred at this yellow top zone here, but obviously price failed to reach that before we headed down. So we predicted that price was aiming towards the bottom zone. Now, what could have happened here was the next stage as our reversal level here. We was either waiting for the push to the downside, huge rejection which we saw here, and then potentially pushing further to make lower lows. However, price had basically respected our monthly key level at 1.220, found the support needed here, so that when price had pushed to the upside, closing above, it tested below, and it closed inside of our yellow zone before we made that huge push to the upside. Now, depending on how you enter and execute your trade, you could have entered on the edge of that, but that would have been a very risky play. However, if you was to take upon this movement here, it was looking at a good 400 pips on this run. So apart from this pound pair, the other pound pairs also had this huge push to the upside. So so it was a good week for the pound towards the end of the week. So yeah, so moving on to the euro, so the euro USD. Now, we projected that we would test this zone, and we knew that it was going to pay. Well, we knew it was going to be a lot of controversy if it was going to continue to the upside or to the downside. Now, as you can see, there was a lot of pin bar rejections in this area, so that therefore was a lot of congestion in this point. So with this reversal zone, we had multiple tests, which obviously failed to make further lows, but the maximum towards the downside was approximately 40 odd pips, before price obviously retraced back up, closed above, and then retested our daily downtrend that we have drawn here, and obviously prices continue to the upside. So we would obviously look into this for next week's video, specifically for the analysis for next week. So we'll have a look a bit more into detail with that. USDJPY, we either predicted that we would get the push to the upside with a closure to the downside. Now, if you have a look exactly where we started the analysis, so roughly here on the 4th of October. Now, we wanted to see either a push to the upside, rejection to the downside, or push to the upside, rejection to the downside, then push to the upside. Okay, so we initially had the first push to the upside. Now, reason why we didn't execute here is because this is not exactly the rejection candle we anticipated or would like to see. As you can see, this is a bearish engulfing candle, so a very strong closure to the downside. So this is indicating that there is sellers in the market. Now, this had then therefore led to price to close below. So now we would be looking for price to test to the upside before we get a closure to the downside. Then we would potentially be looking for lower lows. Now, we had the closure to the upside, and then a closure to the downside, but we had the wick rejection, so it closed within this area. Now, now we had to basically just stay patient in the market just to see where the market would unfold. And with the EMAs converging to the upside, this had led price towards closing to the upside of this reversal zone before immediately quickly tapping into this zone here in the blue. So therefore this would act as a rejection candle, and therefore we had that push to the upside. And also, if you can see the EMAs, this first blue EMA that we have here acted as a support, and therefore multiple confluences here therefore led to price pushing higher to approximately 100 pips in that way. So if you read that correctly and stayed patiently with all the mess that had happened early on in the week, you could have utilized our analysis here and gained a healthy profit there. So moving on to gold. So what we anticipated here was this yellow reversal zone, and as you can see, price pushed its way all the way back up when we thought it could have potentially still continued downwards. Now we had multiple rejections here at this key reversal level here that we have in yellow. Now if that wasn't obvious enough, if you ever see multiple pin bar, I think the rule is roughly about more than 3 pin bar touches that I go off, I start to consider this as a weakness, and especially if we see a huge closure to the downside, I will be looking for shorts, so making further lows. So if you manage to get into a reversal, so a selling position from the yellow zone that we have projected here, it would have roughly been about 300 pips towards to our next key level. Obviously we will talk about gold in the next video that we put out. So that's all for gold. Now pushing on to our next one, if the internet would connect. Sorry about that. Just bear with me a second. You might want to skip the video a bit forward for this bit. I'll just quickly refresh it. Sorry about that. So, so sorry about that. Yeah, as we continue on with the video, we are going to just quickly check out the next pair. Let me just put this through. Sorry about that. So with the Bitcoin, just to finalize everything, we anticipated a push to the upside, and then the retest of this zone. It wasn't evidently clear what we was if we could have got into this pair, but if you see that we had a very strong push to the upside, then this retest here, we had multiple confluences here as we had a rejection on our weekly support, so that was at 8228 before we had that push to the upside. So if you can see that, now you could potentially push this further, so we're probably expecting this to reach 8624, just depending on if this does continue to close higher, this specifically this candle. So yeah, so a closure to the downside. So for shorts, that obviously failed as we didn't get a closure to the downside before that test. So that's all with Bitcoin. And then to finalize with Ripple, we was anticipating a push to the upside and retest of our zone here. However, we didn't manage to get that, so unfortunately our analysis just missed out on Ripple. So that will be all for us on this video. Apologies in advance for that internet connection there, but that will be all from us in this video. If you are getting any value from our videos, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also go ahead and drop in on our Twitter page. We post all the trades that we take upon in our community. So thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next week.